I wanted to talk today about religion and the belief in God and a God or a creator. Um, I have been really, I have been really slow to really make decisions about what I believe as far as, you know, who God is. And um, after leaving Christianity, probably about a year ago, and that all took time. But I would say that I'm spiritual but not religious, and I've been kind of just questioning in my heart, pondering like, is there a God? Who are you, God? I feel like when I look at nature, the way that flowers or leaves have like such intricate designs, or the things that we know about like the human eye or the human ear, or I've given birth 11 times, so I had 2 sons that died, but things like that, like the human body, and just the intricacy has kind of given me, reason to believe that there is something outside of us that made all of this. So I will say that I was helped by some ex-Christians who became atheist, very much so, as far as like debunking the Bible. And that was probably maybe 8 months or more ago, probably more. I'd already gotten to pretty much the point of not believing the Bible, but it was one of those things that was like hard for me to like maybe solidify. Like maybe I would have second guessed or thought that I was possibly going down a wrong path. And so I was like an all-in, gung-ho, fully sold out kind of Christian. I got saved as an adult, and I gave up everything. Like, I gave up listening to any secular music. For example, I gave up wearing clothes like what I'm wearing right now. I gave up keeping my hair short. I grew my hair out long. I was in churches that really, really overemphasize the distinctions between male and female, to the point where, it's like uncut hair and skirts down to your ankles was what it meant to be feminine. Where I would have, in my innermost, who I really am, would have feel like, like right now, like I'm very feminine, even though my hair is short. I went to no makeup, and just extremes. But even people who are Christians who are not as extreme as I eventually became, because I certainly didn't start out in some kind of extreme belief system within Christianity. It all happened very subtly over time. But I've talked in other videos about how all of it was very fear-based, and kind of pendulum swing from my background of, worldly, crazy background and upbringing with very little parent. And, my parents just pretty much weren't in my lives. And I mean, they weren't present. Religion. I haven't been another religion. Like, I haven't been Muslim or something like that, right? But I feel like religion is just a way of, it's a program. It truly is. It's like a computer program. I recently shared with my daughter, it's a mind fuck. At least I feel like Christianity is. And that's going to be, and she's a Christian, and she's actually still is, the uncut hair, no makeup, head covering, homemade dresses down her ankles. She's actually still in those churches. She will listen to me, and I don't expect to convince her from my own words. I think she will have to figure things out as life happens to us all. But what's my point? I was trying to explain to her that the more and more we're sold on any belief system, like aka religion of any kind, the less and less we trust our intuition. Our intuition is that, I used to really struggle with like, oh, is this my intuition? Like, is this me? Or is this the Holy Spirit that I thought lived inside of me? And then the Bible was the clarifier, because it was like, well, if it's the Holy Spirit, it's going to line up with the Bible. And if it's just me, Jennifer, which would have been my intuition, which is what I would have maybe been thinking I shouldn't go by, because I should go by what God is telling me to do, aka the Holy Spirit. Now that I know that no such Holy Spirit has ever lived inside of me or any person, and it's all just a program, I'm certainly not going to jump onto the bandwagon of a different program, like Muslim or Hindu or any other religion. One thing that happened more than a year ago is I realized I used to pray all the time. I used to like just literally, not out loud and not necessarily like down on my knees, but I just would pray like throughout my day. I would pray when I showered. And it wasn't like a rote prayer. It was truly from my heart. Like, maybe almost from in a distress mode, at least when I was stuck in the abusive marriage. But the more and more I healed and worked on myself, as far as like learning about trauma responses, realizing that my childhood kind of set me up to accept a lot of crappy things in marriage and kind of repeat cycles, even though I was aware of my mom and dad's unhealthy dynamic, and my marriage did not look just like that. I still did repeat the cycle. I've talked before about my mom being really timid and I'm the opposite. And so like, on the one hand, I guess I always felt like I can't be repeating mom and dad's cycle because I'm so like night and day different from my mom. But we still did. My ex and I still did repeat the cycle of abuse. It just, the nuances are different. Once I was really self-aware and working and learning, like reading books about trauma, it's like, reading some psychology kind of based books. Most of it was Christian at first because I was kind of scared to, get my hands on anything that was secular. I realized the more I, like, kind of the healthier I became, the less I prayed, and the more and more my prayers became more like self-talk. It was like I was still practicing that, like, whether it was out loud and audible or whether it was just kind of in my mind, that dialogue, it became less and less to someone and more just kind of like me, encouraging myself, or me asking myself questions. And probably because I wasn't in such a desperate situation anymore, it was less of it from a distress mode, like, oh God, help me, I don't know, I'm so scared. I literally lived most of the marriage like in complete fear. Like, he was very disturbingly ugly to me in his treatment. So, I think that was this must be well over a year ago. I think that was kind of my first indication that maybe the whole thing of Christianity wasn't the truth, because it was like, how can I be getting better? I was like physically doing better. I was just doing better on every level, and it was evident. But I was praying less, and I was, just realizing that it was me communicating with myself instead of me communicating to a God, to the God of the Bible. And that was when I was kind of at this crossroads of like, I just feel like all these things, they happen very subtly. They happen over time. They're a progression as far as like deconverting from probably from any religion, but for me, from Christianity. It just didn't happen overnight. I didn't wake up and say, okay, I'm no longer a Christian. I throw out those beliefs. It was all very subtle. I've been really slow in the last, ever since I realized that I'm not a Christian any longer. I believe the Bible kept me stuck in accepting crap treatment, suffering, being willing to suffer. It's a religion of suffering. It's very fear-based. Once I realized that the Bible wasn't true, like it wasn't the word of God, I'm not saying there aren't nice stories or things to be taught from it that could possibly benefit. There's also things that are very disturbing in it. And they didn't really mesh together, actually. And most Christians nowadays really focus on, like, the good stuff, right? They don't focus on the things that we would be like, well, why would Abraham give over his daughters and tell the angels who wanted to, like, rape these men? Why would he say, here, I'll give you my virgin daughters, you can do with them whatever you want, meaning sexually, like all these things. So I feel like I'm rambling, and I hate that. I've been slow to put labels on things, and okay, I believe this about God, or I believe that, or I'm this now, or I'm that now. And I think, what I'm really leaning towards is I'm spiritual. There is more than what meets the eye. So I don't know if spirituality and being an atheist go together. I also did learn from some of those ex-Christian atheists that even the word atheist means maybe something slightly different than I always thought it meant, that they didn't believe in a God at all. But one of them, he explained very well, like, he didn't subscribe to any belief in a certain God. He was open to discovering something about some kind of God, but he, as of yet, had no God that he worshipped. So maybe a little bit more open-minded than I would have thought. I guess I would have thought someone who says they're an atheist, like, says, nope, I'm not even open to the idea. I'm really leaning more toward that we each have we have dark and light. And when you grow up in trauma and you grow up in really bad situation like I did, you're pretty much kind of living out your day-to-day as more like you're living it out more from in darkness, like you're not enlightened. You don't understand laws of the universe. Christianity, I think, only worsens that by helping you to totally disregard your intuition and put your complete trust in a book and in a supposable God who wants you to suffer like he has suffered. I spent a lot of years being treated in a way that my innermost me, my intuition, was screaming out, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this. This is absolutely nuts. I don't deserve to be treated this way. And then my belief system, it would have been more like, okay, but let me grab the Bible and let me find these verses. Oh, be willing to suffer if it is the will of God, if the will of God be so. Lay down your life, die daily, take up your cross daily, all those things. So I would kind of do this mental gymnastics, if you will. And I would, okay, he said this. I know that what he's saying isn't true, or he did this to me and he's physically hurting me, or he's definitely, emotionally, mentally, like just treating me very, very poorly. I don't deserve this, but God sees all. And then I would just, okay, God, help me. I want to do your will. I want to be willing. You have done so much for me to wash my sins away, which my sins were many, right? So it's like this whole thing. I think that now that I consider myself an empress, I consider myself enlightened, I don't think that there is a God in the way that Christians or Muslims, I'll stick with those two examples because I just don't know enough about other religions, but in the way that most people would refer to a God, I don't think that there is a God like that. I think that, I guess when people say the universe, like the world that we live in, there's universal laws, or there are things at play, there are truths at play, like the law of attraction or something like that. Like there are things that are true and they actually like manifesting, kind of like our mindset, but it all kind of goes back to us and our mindset. And if we let ourselves be, let's say, overcome with fear and anxiety, and all of that can kind of lead down into like depression and despair. And I have definitely been there. As I healed and got away from this, mean, cruel husband, even though the divorce isn't final yet, but living separately, I remember crying for weeks at night for the first several weeks in relief that I could actually sleep and not be scared. I had never really realized how scared I was of him and just how much like my body was used to being completely in fear. But the healthier I have gotten, the less I prayed, to where then I just stopped praying altogether. I didn't need to pray. But yet I kept thriving. I kept doing better and better and better. My mindset is where I would say, like my body and stuff, I lost weight. So like my body has changed. But like I would say my mindset is the number one place that the change took place. I did have to go through a phase of kind of realizing that and owning that I had been a victim, but I did not stay in a victim mindset. But it was part of the process, because I was somebody who was basically denying that I was depressed, denying that, I didn't think that I was being abused all those 26 years. So I definitely had to go through a time of, acknowledging like this has been domestic abuse. Oh my God, oh my gosh, I never would have said, oh my God, never would have taken God's name in vain. All these things. I am like so much stronger. I'm the me that I always was on the inside, but I'm not scared to live it out. I don't care if people don't like me. I don't care if someone's judgment is, oh, maybe they think I'm racist, or maybe they think I'm stuck up, or maybe they think I'm whatever, fill in the blank, any negative attribute. Well, I know that, I'm not saying I think I'm perfect or anything, but like, I know that I'm not those negative things. So I don't receive it as truth. So I'm not saying it never bothers me. There might be a twinge of like, okay, ooh, that hurt, like if someone just to say she's completely hideous or whatever. But you know what? Like, I recognize the things that are negative that someone might say about me or assume about me are not true. And so therefore it doesn't really like get into here or into here, because I'm very strong in who I am. And all I can say is, I've said it in a different video, if choosing myself, like jumping timelines, quantum leaping, if choosing myself leads to spiritual growth, then I don't need there isn't any God in the way that Christianity or the Muslim faith teaches. It's like almost like we are the God of our own life. We choose by what we allow ourselves to dwell upon, to think upon, the mindset we choose to have. you know, like whether we're going to let something negative like bring us down into like a pit of despair or grip our heart with fear. And like, I'm not saying that those things can't happen even yet to me, but like, I don't stay there. And I don't stay there for certainly for years or months or weeks, but I don't stay there. It's like, no, you know what? There's like nothing. And there's some pretty severe things even recently that have happened in my extended family. And, you know, like, I would say probably I did for a couple days get very distracted and became very like, kind of riddled with anxiety, more than I had in at least 2 years. And I didn't pray about it. I was like, wow, you've got to really check yourself. You're letting this completely unnerve you and you're losing your peace. And I knew it was all about my mindset. And I care about the extended family members that basically a tragedy has happened in these extended family members' lives. I care about them greatly, but I don't have to like, I can still care and still have peace and not like be in complete the turmoil that maybe they're living in right now. They're not enlightened at all. They're kind of where I was, you know, more than 2 years ago. I don't have to be like riddled with anxiety and like kind of like this, you know, oh no, this is awful. I can't believe this happened. I can't believe, you know, that kind of, I don't have to. So once I like realized that it was taking away my peace for, you know, probably about a day and a half, it was like a shift in my mind, and I have not felt anything like that since. And I've thought about it over and over. Like I've thought about it probably at least once every day since then. It's been probably a handful of days. And I thought, like, does it mean you don't care? And immediately my response to myself is no, you do care, but you can't let it, basically you can't let it like take you down, take your peace away, and be like something that's just completely, I don't know what the right word is, monopolizing my mind, like everything. I do care. And, you know, I won't get into what it is, but for the extended family member, I just can hope that one day she might be able to work through things and let go of false belief systems. And, you know, maybe this is the beginning of her kind of waking up, her awakening. Hopefully. It might not be, because a lot of people aren't willing to do the work and they're not willing to look at themselves. So I just, I don't know that I'm ready to call myself an atheist. I definitely think I could be in a relationship with an atheist. Maybe I am atheist because I'm basically telling you I don't believe in God. If anything, I believe that it's us. It's like it's our higher self. Our highest self is God for each of us, each of us individually, for our own lives. So we kind of control the narrative, if that makes sense. So religion is just a program. And you can run, you know, I'm not real tech savvy at all, but you can run different programs on different computers. And you can even take, I don't have an iPhone, but I know you can take a Samsung phone and you can actually run some kind of software system on it and it will operate like an iPhone. And likewise, you can take an iPhone. I don't know why you would want to take an iPhone and make it run like an Android, but you can. And there's a program to run. So it's all a program. Religion, you know, I don't know enough about the other religions that are like in different parts of the world, but like, you know, the one where they have like maybe the dot, I think that's Hindu, right? But like I know they like smear ashes, and there's a lot of different religions, like, you know, okay, or maybe even thinking of like someone who's Buddhist, like they're actually bowing down to a figure that's made out of cement or wood or whatever the particular one they have is made out of. Like, I know when I was a Christian, like that I would have thought that's an idol, and that's idol worship. And my God, there's even Bible verses to talk about, you know, he doesn't have eyes the way like an idol does, but he sees everything. So like there's this contrast between like worshiping the true God, like the God of the Bible, right, and an idol. But it's all, they're different, but it's all just a false belief system. And, you know, the God of the Bible isn't the same as like worshiping an actual figure, but like it's just more like in your mindset. It has you bowing down to not trust yourself. It's a mind fuck. It's, you know, if I had just listened to my intuition, my innermost little voice, I had left him originally in under 2 years. And then I had this Christian experience and got back with him. And that's what kept me in this horrible situation for 26 years, 24 years after becoming a Christian. It's like, you know, the whole time my intuition was telling me, no, you may not treat me that way. I will not keep allowing this. And let's just say, I've said it before, but I am the poster child for, I gave it my everything. I believed the Bible with every fiber of my being. I put all of it to practice, not perfectly, but I was like really, 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 you know, really. And it's not true. It led to fear. It led to bondage. It left fear gripping my heart. It left me without a voice. It left me basically abandoning myself and putting every last person above me. So I'm a lot healthier and thriving now that I put me first. And that doesn't mean that I don't care about other people. I actually care about people so much. I'm such an empath that I used to sacrifice myself, if you will. I used to, it didn't matter how bad something was making me feel. It only mattered how someone else was feeling. Let me do everything I can. Let me bend over backwards. Basically be a doormat, but I would have never thought I was a doormat because I'm like just kind of bold. I've always just spoke my mind, no matter how I dressed, no matter how much I thought, the music I really love was, worldly and to be avoided, just everything, all the suppression of the real me. But the more and more and more I've let go of all of that, I don't pray, it's just the happier and happier. It's such a night and day contrast. I don't think my words alone would ever convince anyone, but I do know there are people who see me. They might see me from a distance, but they've seen a transformation in my life, and I know that they can see the joy that I have that I didn't have when I was stuck in the marriage. I'm sure I had joy in the first handful of years, but it progressively worsened, and I became more and more depressed, especially the last 10 years. There's not a God the way that religion teaches. That doesn't mean that I'm saying I made the flowers or I made the trees, but it's almost like when we think of like an ecosystem, it's almost like it's an ecosystem, or I don't know if I'm using that word right, but it's like there's laws, there's universal laws. There are things at play that we can't see, so that's why I definitely believe in a spirituality. But there's not a daddy God in the sky looking down. No one was gonna come and save me, even though I fully believed that Jesus would. I had to put one foot in front of the other and decide, get fed up enough and get where I just left got out of the situation, no matter what it's going to cost me. And I was still a Christian, but it's like I couldn't keep doing it, which was trauma related. The healthier me doesn't pray. The healthier me listens very strongly to my intuition. If it doesn't feel good to me, I'm not interested. If you're making, as far as maybe somebody might be interested in me or something romantically or something, if you make me confused, if I don't see consistency, I'm not interested. I lose interest very quickly. I haven't experienced it yet, but if someone would be consistent and, genuine, I'm not someone who's just flaky, who's loses interest in things easily. I'm kind of a nerd. I like to read, I like to study, I like to learn. I'm very self-taught in a lot of areas. I don't really watch TV and movies. I'm not against that, but I don't really. I feel like there's better use for my time. I'm always, I'm just interested. I make herbal tinctures and I make soap, and, I held my own soap business for 8 years, but I sew clothing, I make earrings, I cut my own hair, I dye my own hair, I cut my children's hair, I love to cook from scratch, there's just a lot of areas of interest. I like to upcycle. My point is not to try to lift myself up, but I'm just saying, it's like life is what you make it. It's about our mindset, and it's not, whenever we're praying to a God per se, whether it would be Buddha or Jesus or whoever, it's like we're looking to something outside of ourselves to be whole or to be able to make it. And if you think about the law of attraction, whenever you think you're without something, you're attracting, it's like you're, if I would be praying, oh God, help me, I really want to get this job, or I really want blah, 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 whatever it would be. What I'm actually saying as far as the law of attraction is I'm actually saying, I don't have this, I don't possess this. So if you think about that with prayer, every time we're praying for something, for something to change, something to get better, God help me, this is so hard, I don't know what to do, all these kind of things, right? I don't necessarily mean just things like a new car, I just mean for your circumstance to improve. Instead, the law of attraction would be more you know what? I am happy, I'm content. And then I'm feeling the feeling of being content, and then I actually am content. And then I keep feeling that, and then I continue to be content. And I'm, like, once again, I'm not saying without any disturbance or any, like, I'm not saying that I don't still kind of get, you know, I'm not saying I'm doing it perfectly, but overall, I know how to kind of bounce back from any emotional upset. I still have children that definitely trigger me, and they're unhealed. And all the work I've done, they can still make me feel really crazy and crappy, very temporarily, but not all day, not for extended periods of time. I can certainly feel frustrated, but I know how to handle it. I know how to, like, just think about it differently. And, you know, this matrix that we're in, or this, you know, I feel like there's definitely a lot of propaganda. The school systems, just there's a lot of propaganda. I've known that for years and years, but I feel like I can more confidently than ever say, even like as of today, or as of today, there isn't a God, like an actual being that I need to talk to, or he's kind of looming over, like, oh, has she been bad? Almost like Santa Claus, you know. He knows, you know, he knows what you've been doing. He sees if you're awake. It's very fear-based. Even when you think of the Santa Claus song, I can't think of the right words right now, but I remember as a Christian thinking, oh, it's like they're, you know, it's so, they're making Santa Claus be like God. That's the way God is. But he's like, you know, that is the way the God of the Bible is. Like, oh, why do I want any interest in that? Like, that's, the God of the Bible is a God of destruction. The Old and New Testament don't mesh together very well. You know, it's all man-made, and it's all about control. And when you learn about manifesting, and for me, like, it's not so much about material wealth. That's just not my main concern. And yet, I'm just not worried about it, and I keep having plenty. And I guess I think that kind of goes hand in hand. I still like to thrift shop and things like that. I'm not living excessively, but I'm not worried about it the way that I used to, the way I used to penny pinch and, like, just, you know, scrimp and save. And I mean, I'm still, like, frugal. I still take my bones from, like, lamb, or recently I've bought a case of duck, but I'll still, like, cook the bones down and make a broth so I can make homemade soups. Like, I'm still, like, use the resources. I think that's being prudent, but it's not because I'm like, oh, you know, if I throw these bones away, then we won't have this or won't have that, or, you know, like, I'm getting ready to go inside to karaoke, and I'm gonna get something to eat. You know, I'm not gonna feel like I have to get the cheapest thing. I'm not just gonna get a cup of soup. You know, I'm not worried about it. Like, but I'm so much happier the more and more I just keep choosing myself. The more and more that I listen to my intuition. I think that the fact that we each have this inner voice, it's like that's what we need to listen to. How do we feel about something? And, you know, one reason I couldn't keep sticking with the Bible, but do like a lot of people do, and like, okay, the Bible talks against homosexuality, for example. That's a good example. So as a Christian, as I was coming away I was deconverting in a lot of ways, like my mindset, okay, I can cut my hair short. It doesn't, you know, the Bible doesn't actually even say you can't have short hair as a woman. All these things coming out of a lot of legalism and things like that. But I have a cousin who's very, very liberal Christian. She would fully embrace homosexuality. She would believe that, you know, heaven and hell are more of a state of mind, which I almost would kind of believe like that now, I guess. But she would say, well, can't you just still be a Christian? I'm a Christian. And I would say, no, like, I respect you, but I guess I would feel like your church really sees a problem with verses that I see a problem with, but y'all want to keep the book overall and the God overall, and you want to say, well, hey, we'll just hang out here in these certain passages, primarily in the New Testament, but not all of them. And we like these. And I don't think she understands exactly where I'm coming from, or maybe she does. I respect her, I love her. But for me, it's all or nothing. And then I'm certainly not going to take up like another faith with another book, like the Quran and the Muslim faith. It's like, it would just be like rewind and repeat. It's just a different program. So instead, there's a built-in program that we just need to listen to, which is our intuition. And then we'll realize that everything kind of falls into place. And the more and more and more I'm in tune with myself, the better and better and better I'm doing. And it's pretty amazing. And I haven't ever been happier, probably ever. And I'm very self-aware. I've been self-aware, at least in some regard, for a long, long, long time. But I don't have another program trying to override my self-awareness. It's like, nope, self-awareness gets to be in like full throttle, and I am doing so great. So yeah, I don't know whether you can be a spiritual atheist or what label or wording would best describe where I'm at, but I really, really feel at peace with what I believe. It's very, very liberating. Yeah. And I don't need anything outside of myself to be quite happy. That doesn't mean that I don't think we need to have interpersonal relationships with others. I do. And they only will add to the content and happiness that we have on our own. And then we're, our vibe being high attracts other high vibe people. When my vibe was low, I attracted another low vibe person who I spent the next almost 30 years of my life kind of wasting away. I look younger. I'm 45. My birthday is in September, so I'm closer to 46. I look younger. I literally look younger than I have for the last decade. I'm not trying to say I look better than like everyone or something like that. Like, I'm not saying I could still lose more weight. I could definitely tone, but like, I look good. I feel good. If you had told me with the way I looked maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago that like, you're going to look like this, and show me like a picture of what I look like right now in 5 years or in 10 years from now, I would have been like, oh no way, that's how I looked, or similar to how I looked in my 30s. There's no way. But it's like, the lightheartedness that comes along with like being happy almost brings a youthfulness. I feel like on the outside, like it manifests the lighter, like my mindset is affecting the 3D, my outward, does that make sense? And it's just so interesting to me. So this is getting pretty long. I will definitely be needing to finish now. See ya.